Hello and welcome to my guide. Today we will be doing Romeo and Juliet. So I just finished doing the Ernest the Chicken quest. I'm gonna skip the intro in terms of the tools we're gonna use. If you're curious, go back to the Ernest the Chicken one. Everything's gonna be the same. We're gonna use OSRS box, the default script factory UI. Just go back and look at that video. Okay, so just like that video, we're going to start with a blank template, and I already have my area pre-made since I'm using a template. So let's get the config, which we already set up, which is 144. So write a comment, go to Romeo, so if my config is 0, if area contains my player, Lumbridge top bank, fix that. Then we're going to go to Romeo. We got to grab his area and position, so we'll do that now. I think this one will be better than the Ernest the Chicken one. I think a lot of this quest will be solvable with web walking, so it shouldn't be as tedious. So here we are in Varrock. You can see his area is pretty large. He was just down here. I would imagine he could go over here. So what I'm going to do is create a pretty large area, call it Romeo, and I'm going to make this, actually I'm going to make it pretty small, and I'm going to tell you why. 5. You can see the area is pretty small, although he's technically in it. The reason I'm going to make it small is because there's only one Romeo, so I'm not too concerned about having to filter down through multiple Romeos. I'm also going to create a position here. This will be my walk to position. Romeo. So if the value is 0, if my player is at the top of Lumbridge bank, then walk to, or if area does not contain Romeo, then walk to position Romeo. Fix the method numbers. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do two things. One, he either talks to you first like he did here, or we're going to talk to him. So we're going to include both just as a backup, I guess. So if 144 equals 0, which means we haven't started the quest yet, if not in dialogue, because we don't want to spam click on him, if area contains my player Romeo, then Romeo talk to. So interact with NPC, Romeo talk to. Okay. So this is covering us in case he does not automatically talk to us. Now, if he does talk to us, then we're going to click to script up here so we could capture all of his conversation parts. Okay, so I just clicked through all the options. I clicked through all the options just in case. I wasn't exactly sure which ones to click, although it probably says it in the quest guide. So this includes pretty much all the possible options. I will add if pending option. I'll add two things. If pending option, click yes. Oops. Click yes. Select option yes. And then if in dialog, click continue. So what this will do, this will just cover getting to the point where I'm supposed to start the quest. This will start the actual quest, and this will continue any dialogue. So this should cover most of the interactions. If I miss one during the testing run, then I will just manually add the select option. So I just grabbed our config value using click to script, and it's now 144 equals 10. At this point, we have to talk to Juliet. So we're going to add a comment. Go to Juliet, and I think we'll call this the first time. I'm not sure how many times there's going to be, but we'll start with the first and work our way down. Go to Juliet first time. If area contains my player, Romeo. If the config value is 10, which means we just finished talking to him and starting the quest, then we're going to go to Juliet. So we're here at Juliet. We're outside. I'm not sure if she's static there. So we're going to set the position out here as Juliet. This is our walk to position. And we're going to set a area as Juliet. And that could be small because she doesn't move, I guess. As Juliet. Okay, so if my config value is 144.10, if my player isn't Romeo, walk to position Juliet. Exact, ignore checks. So at this point, we're at Juliet, and our config value should stay the same because all we did was walk here. If our config value is 144.10, if not in dialog, if NPC exists, Juliet, if area contains my player. So what you could do here is you could cut out one of these. So you could either say, these are pretty similar. So you could say, if NPC exists Juliet, that must mean I'm within the Juliet area. So you don't really need both of these, but I'll just include them. I'll also do one for Romeo. It doesn't really hurt it. It's not really necessary, but when in doubt. Okay. NPC exists Juliet, interact with Juliet, talk to. Talk to. So this is pretty similar to what we did with Romeo. We're just going to turn click to script on up here, and we're going to click through the options. So there was no unique options. It was just continue dialogue. So that's covered by this right up here. So we don't actually have to add anything. What we want to do now is we want to check our config value, which has changed. As you see, it's now 20. We also want to look up an OSRS box. This is called a message. could be this one. We'll go with 755. So if config value is 144.20, if area contains my player Juliet, if inventory contains items, this is the value for the message, I believe. Then walk to position Romeo, exact, ignore. And I'm going to test this just to see if I'm correct about the inventory item. So it looks like we were right. This is the right ID for the message. So we're going to go to Romeo. So we're at Romeo now. I will say one thing though. So if you remember the last video with Ernest the Chicken, how the config values really didn't change, and I was using items as a way to kind of track my progress. This one, the config values actually do change. So for example, see how it changed from 10 to 20, and it changed because I talked to Juliet and she gave me the letter. You don't actually have to say that you have this letter in your inventory. You could just say, if config value is 20, if my player area is Juliet, then walk to Romeo. So you don't necessarily need item checks for some parts of this, but I'll just include it. So we're gonna add the comment here, Juliet to Romeo. Romeo first time. So at this point we have to give the letter to Romeo, give letter to Romeo. And our config value is the same because all we did was just walk here, which doesn't change it. If config value is 144.20, and you're just copying a lot of this up here, if not in dialogue, if area contains my player Romeo, if NPC exists Romeo, interact with Romeo. So it's a lot of copying. So we're going to talk to Romeo and we're going to click to script these messages. So I clicked through the messages. I wasn't sure which ones were the right ones. So I clicked through a few and then I just ended it with okay, thanks. So we just turned in the letter with Romeo. I double checked to see my config value with click to script and it changed to 30, which means we are on the next phase. Just delete this excess stuff. So now we have to go talk to Father Lawrence. Romeo leads the letter. Go talk to Father Lawrence. And he suggests making a potion. So we will go talk to Father Lawrence. Okay, we're here with Father Lawrence again. And we will do, and we will organize it. Romeo to Father Lawrence. We will create an area. Father Lawrence. And it doesn't have to be a spectacular area because there's only one Father Lawrence. We'll create a position to walk to Father Lawrence. So if config value is 30, now there's no items for this because we just turned it into Romeo. So all we're going to do is if area contains my player Romeo, if area, and this is not necessary too, but you could also add if area does not contain Father Lawrence, then walk to Father Lawrence. Okay, so at this point we're at Father Lawrence and we have to talk to him. Again, our config value did not change because we just walked here. We'll preemptively add some things, dialogue, if not in dialogue. If area contains my player, Father Lawrence. If NPC exists, and some of these, again, are just excessive checks, like as long as you're within the Father Lawrence area, I would imagine Father Lawrence is there. So you could skip some of these if you want to. It doesn't hurt to skip them. It doesn't hurt to add them. It's just extra. Interact with NPC Father Lawrence. Talk to. So again, we're going to click to script through everything. And there's no unique interactions with him. So we're going to delete this. Continue dialogue. So we just checked our config value. The config value is 40, which means we are on the next phase, which is to get the potion. So first we have to go talk to the apothecary who will give us the recipe. So what we're going to do is add another comment, go to the apoth, go to the, so what we're going to do is add another comment here, go to the apothecary. So again, we don't have any inventory items, but that's okay because our config value changed. So if config value is 40, if area contains my player, Father Lawrence. Now I will say, just thinking about this actually, depending on how big you made your area, and I'll show you an example. So this is our area, right? It's pretty big, but let's say, for example, using this example we just wrote here, if my player is in area, Father Lawrence, right? And I talk to him, that means I could be dragged out here. Like, what if he's out here? And now I'm talking to him. And now my next check is if area contains Father Lawrence, then go to the apothecary. Well, you see, now I'm not in the area of Father Lawrence. So this would fail if Father Lawrence, was out here. So in this case, it doesn't really look like he wanders too far away from the area, and the area is kind of large. But I would just keep that in mind, that if you could possibly be dragged out of the area. So the easy way to fix that is just say, if config value is 40 and my area is not in the apothecary, then walk there. So don't include the Father Lawrence. In this case, it doesn't really matter, but sometimes it might. So just keep that in mind. All right, we're at the apothecary now. We're gonna do our same thing. Create positions. Apothecary position, area, apothecary. So if my player is at Father Lawrence, if area does not contain my player, apothecary, walk to position, apothecary. So because we just walked here, the config didn't change, and we're copying a similar method. So if not in dialog, if area contains my player, apothecary, and again, this is not necessary, but you can include it if NPC exists, apothecary. Make sure I spelled that right. Interact with NPC. Oops. Apothecary, talk to. So we're going to talk to him and click to script through the messages. So he had like a double branch of dialogue. So I'm going to check to see if I actually progressed. So I did. So now we're on config 50. We have to go get the cadaver berries. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a comment, get cadaver berries, and we're going to say if area contains my player, apothecary, and now we have to go get the area and the position for the cadaver berries. Okay, so we're at the position of cadaver berries. Now, when I was walking here, I was actually being attacked by the wizards. So what you might want to do, if you find that while you're testing the script, and we might see this later when I test it on another account, if by the point I'm running to the berries past the wizards, if my run energy is low, I might die to the wizards. So if that's the case, I might have to add a method for pausing before the wizards and either waiting for my run energy to fill up or going the long way around Varrock, going the east way out and then walking out that way. So that's something to consider. So let's write the position for cadaver berries. This is our position. Now we'll do an area. Doesn't have to be too big. So you'll see the cadaver berries have different IDs. So when it's a fresh bush, it's 23625. You picked one, 23626. Now it's 23627, but it's out. So the ID progressively changes. So what you want to do is first we got to write the walk to here. If area does not contain my player, cadaver berries, walk to position, cadaver berries, exact, ignore checks, break on death. So what we're going to do here is, since there's a couple bushes, we're going to not check for a specific one, but we're going to check for the status of any of them. So we're going to say if RS2 object exists, cadaver bush, cadaver bush. If inventory does not contain cadaver berries, which is 753, and we have to grab the config value because we only want to do this when we're on this part. Interact with, now we're going to use the IDs. So remember the IDs change. So it's 23625. Interact with 23625. I believe it's pick, but we'll double check. Pick from, okay. 23625, pick from. Okay. Pick from. That's going to handle the first phase of the bush. The first phase like this is a boss. It's not a boss, but you'll see right now it's 23625. We pick it. Now it's 23626. So just in case like someone tries to screw with you here, what we're going to do is we're going to copy this method. But instead of using 23625, we're going to use 23626, and that will cover either phase of the bush. 23626. And because it's also checking for if you have the berry in your inventory already, if it gets it the first time here, great, it'll just skip this one. But if it doesn't get it here for whatever reason, then it gets it here. So just a little backup. So at this point we have the berries, and we're going to go back to the apothecary and make the potion. So we're back at the apothecary. We're going to make the method for this. Have berries, make potion. So just like when we ran to the berry bushes, we had to run past the wizards. Now coming back, we had to run past them again, back to the apothecary. So if you're finding that you're running out of energy and you have low HP like I do, you could potentially die. So you might want to write a run energy check before running past the wizards and on your way back. But just that's something that you'll have to see during the testing phase. And now that we have the berries, let's imagine we're back at the berry bushes still. If the config value is 50, if inventory contains 753, which is the berries, and now we're not going to check for the fact that we're in that tiny little berry bush area because it doesn't encompass all the berry bushes, but we're checking for all the berry bushes when we're picking the berries. So now we're just going to check for the apothecary only. So if area does not contain apothecary, and then walk to position apothecary. So at this point we're at the apothecary, and we're going to copy things down from up above. So if not in dialogue, if players within area apothecary, if NPC exists apothecary, that's unnecessary, but you can still add it. Interact with the apothecary. Now you also want to check for if you don't have the potion. I don't know what the potion is called. Cadaver potion. Let's see. So the ID for this is 756. So what you'll add here is if inventory does not contain the potion, then you'll talk to him. So we'll put on click to script again to run through the chat options. Now, if you watch that, you might have noticed something weird. So when he was, after I told him to make the potion, it looked like the chat kind of died out there for a second and then it picked up again. So during testing, what might happen there is it might make my character interact with him again while he's doing that little animation thing, and then it kind of breaks it. So we'll find out if that's true during the testing part. But now we have the potion, so we have to go to Juliet and give her the potion. Also, this chat might be missing something here to make the potion, so we'll see during the testing phase also. So let's go to Juliet. So debug comment, have potion go to Juliet, and we'll check our config value, which is still 50. Oh, okay, so the config value did not change. It's still 50. If config value is 50, if inventory contains 756, which is the potion, if my player is in the apothecary, if my player is in the apothecary, if area does not contain my player Juliet, walk to position Juliet. So we're back here at Juliet. We'll add another comment at Juliet, give potion so our config value should still be 50, but we'll double check. It is just because we walked, nothing changed. If config value is 50, if inventory contains the potion 756, if area contains my player Juliet, if not in dialogue, and you could just grab the same one you used up here, which is interact with Juliet. So we'll use the click to script again to capture all the chat. Again, that might have broken it. Not sure. It looked like the chat kind of stopped. All right, so we just finished that interaction. It looked like the chat stopped a couple times. As you can see here, it looked like that might be something we have to fix in the testing. But we'll delete this all because we already have the click to continue up above. So let's grab our config value, which is now 60. And so if our config value is 60, if area contains my player Juliet, and now we have to go to the crypt. So we're back at Romeo. We'll add a comment here. Back to Romeo for crypt. So we also have to add the walk to Romeo. If area does not contain my player Romeo, walk to position Romeo. So now that we're at Romeo, we have to talk to him, and I guess he takes us to the crypt. So we'll just copy down what we did up here. So if not in dialogue, if area contains my player Romeo, if NPC exists, Romeo, interact with Romeo, talk to. Make sure you fix your method numbers. So we'll talk to Romeo, and we will click to script to capture all the chats. So it looks like there's no unique chats here. It looks like a lot of click to continue. All right, so there's no unique chat options there. The only thing I could think of is possibly the chat exiting and returning, and that might mess with things, but we'll see during the testing. So right now the script is done at this point, and we will run it on a different account and see if there's any bugs. All right, so I did not capture one of these options, one of these chat options. That's an easy fix though. Interact with Romeo. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click here, method shift down, so create space here. If pending option, select option. All right, so we're missing this one chat option here. Perhaps I could help you find her. So we manually type that out. And let's save and continue. Right now it's getting stuck in this where can I find Father Lawrence part. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to remove that where can I find Father Lawrence, because I suspect you don't need it to complete the quest. Complete dialogue options. Okay. Thanks. So there's a little bug here. It's supposed to be if not in dialogue. So I was doing the same thing here. I guess some of these options are unnecessary, and I didn't realize that during the writing. Let's see. I think we could just double click edit this. So what I did is I double clicked the actual line and I just deleted the where can I get these berries part. So overall, the script worked pretty well. Some things I would keep in mind are, in this case, the config values change, unlike the Ernest the Chicken one where it did change, but barely. This one changed quite frequently. So just remember to check your config values as you go along. And if the dialog options don't work, like some of mine didn't do, just prune the excess options away until it does. And that's about it. I hope you learned something. This was a little different than the Ernest the Chicken one. We utilized configs more. We did not utilize buying things or restocking yet, but that could be the next video. So if you have any questions, just let me know and I will answer them. Thank you.